Hey guys, it is me. Just in case you've been living under a rock, we're going to talk about the coronavirus. Yeah, that's me trying to be a doctor. Seriously though, it is moving faster than the Rocket's Night Falcon 9 rocket's contagion rate. If that makes any sense. So every joke that I had about people freaking out unnecessarily is now outdated, because the whole world is in quarantine, so... Hey, let's review what's happening.
Congressman Gates, man, I see you just left the floor, man, on
As
coronavirus.
far as I can see,
You're taking this
this
a little.
one is
Are you
completely
taking this vote too
justified,
seriously,
because,
wearing a
of
mask right
course,
now?
the best protection is just to wrap yourself.
Yeah, just for
with
you know
toilet
that
paper
as a gas
and
mask.
your home.
That thing
and
is not
maybe
going to protect
some
you against
police
the virus because the virus,
lines,
as everyone knows,
well, doesn't spread through
through
the air. And besides, it's a gas mask, so
I have heard people say,
you
imagine congressmen fighting each other
coronavirus
with sleeping
because
gas.
you know, in Congress,
Being dead is already the best
that would be
medicine.
hell fun. Next,
Moving on,
the IQ of the whole planet due to this panic has dropped a whopping 30%. Hey, look, just like the stock market. But don't worry, let's recap all the recent other epidemics that we've been there before, like Ebola, SARS, the Zika virus, the swine flu. Excuse me. And oh, look! Wow, that's Michael Jackson. Yeah, don't get distracted. Actually, the swine flu was one of the most funny ones. Everything was covered with alcohol dispensers and vaccinations, and it was kind of different that time because everyone was prepared. But look at the numbers. Estimated that between 300 million people and 1 people were infected, and most of them didn't even notice. The fatality rate was 0.03, more or less, and later it transformed into a different kind of pandemic. The swine flu turned to be one of the safest and most mild flu, and it's still around, by the way, but no one cares. We have new, sexy, and deadly ones. Oh yeah, sorry, that's our bad. Here, have some toilet paper. And here's some interesting data. If you are between 0 and 50 years old and you get infected, you have a chance of 99% of not dying. And from 0 to 60, you have a chance of 97.7% of not dying. As you can see, 80 plus years old are where all deaths are concentrated. And here's a map. Hawaii, you're on the way. And if you're tempted to leave everything behind and go to Africa, think again. Just because it's not being reported, it doesn't mean it's not happening. There will surely be many cases, but since symptoms are quite normal, just a second. As I was saying, just because the symptoms are normal, and it makes it hard to detect if you don't have the right testing tools. Here's another data of causes of death. No need to say anything more. And here's the lethality rate, which is a ratio of the people that get infected and die. Italy is like kind of the worst, and South Korea is our role model right now, because they have made the most tests. Now, then we have Germany, which is kind of a mystery, and we don't really know what's happening and why it's so low. But there are certain theories about this. First one, that it has been very early, so no many cases are being reported. They're the second country that made the most tests. And the third one, which makes the difference between South Korea, is that most of the people that has been infected is not so old. The virus doesn't affect it so much, and thus the low mortality ratio. But these are just hypotheses, and we'll have to see and wait for more data to come to actually make sure if they're true or not. As we mentioned before, Italy is now at 9%, and what aggravates the situation is the saturation of the healthcare system is unable to treat patients properly, therefore they're dying more than they should. As more cases get confirmed through new testing systems, we approach something similar as South Korea has. I also wanted to point out that the UK is not taking it very seriously, and the measurements taken are not very strict. It's very likely to increase dramatically here. The collective that should be especially aware would be people with compromised immune systems and old, but they should be aware of any other disease anyway. And now for a more informed scenario, here's what experts are saying. And be aware that this is a very novel virus with information changing constantly, so yeah, just be aware of that. So why is COVID-19 so dangerous? What determines the danger of an infectious agent is the combination of three factors: contagion vector, morbidity, and mortality rate. The COVID-19 has a vector of contagion between 1.5 and 2.5. It's 3 times greater than normal flu, which means that its propagation is geometric. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 13, well, you get the point. But the worst thing, not like SARS or flu, this one also contagiates within the first 2 weeks of incubation period, before even having symptoms. Let's be clear, everyone is going to be infected by the COVID-19 in the next 3 months. Morbidity and mortality is the following. Let's say we have 1,000 people. 900 of them will pass it asymptomatically, including kids and youngsters. 100 of them will have symptoms, and in those 180 will have it as a bad flu, having cough, headaches, 2 or 3 weeks home and you'll be fine. Of the 20 that's left, 15 of them will develop a severe pneumonia, which will make very hard to breathe and will require hospital care, oxygen and bronchodilators. The other 5 will develop pulmonary fibrosis, which will require immediate access to intensive care units with assisted respiration. This is an irreversible process that basically shuts down your lungs. Of these 5, 3 will die, and the 2 that will live will have sequels that they will need a lung transplant. If you look at that, it doesn't seem so bad, right? There are several problems with the virus. We don't have a vaccine, we don't have antivirals, and unlike the normal flu, which attacks gradually over 5 months of the year, this infection is very concentrated and attacks very quickly. So in 2-3 months is where all contagions are going to be made. Let's put, for example, my country, Spain. We have roughly 40 million people. Only 4 of them are going to have symptoms. With 3.2 million will have a bad flu. 600,000 will need hospital care with oxygen, and 200,000 will need intensive care. The problem is that in Spain, with the public and private sector combined, there's only 200,000 beds and roughly 4,000 intensive care units. The problem is not the sickness itself, but because it's very contagious and it comes in a huge wave, it collapses the whole sanitary system. If we don't slow down the curve, it's certainly sure that all these people will die. This means that there won't be enough beds, and when intensive care is full, we have to apply war medicine. For each bed that is free, there's 7 people waiting. Professionals will have to decide who they attend, meaning who will live or who will die. This without counting other types of diseases that are urgent, like strokes, heart attacks, traffic accidents, and etc. So yeah, that's the real threat. So that's why we have to make all our efforts to put the curve down. That was grim. And they're both sides of the coin. Most likely you're not going to experience a negative health effect, but at the same time we need to take these extreme measures as quarantine and lockdown to prevent the possibility of having 70 million people die. And if you think this is an exaggeration, just check the numbers. And the most accurate one that we have right now, the mortality rate is about 1%. So yeah. Now let's proceed to the disinfection. While we prepare to the next wave of consequences. And just as we flip the page of this emergency health crisis, and if it lasts for long enough, we'll have it in the same page, there's a real economic problem. Our economy is sustained in the ability to move money fast. I'm not going to extend more in this video talking about economy and recessions, but I will try my best to do it in a future video. Meanwhile, you can check Ray Dalio's video on that. Just to take on the basic, if everything stops, we have a big problem. Many businesses will go bankrupt and it's going to spark a recession. There's a huge range of predictions from bad to catastrophic. And it depends mostly on how long is this quarantine going to last. Putting it basically, since you cannot go home because there's the virus thing, balance between supply and demand is just going to break. China is just not producing and the rest of the countries are not buying
So we'll talk about the effects of the coronavirus on the economy and how can you prepare for the next recession. In the next video, you may be confused what to do next. So I wrote a list. First, don't panic. Second, don't panic. Third, do not talk about the fight. Okay, who wrote this? Keep in mind that I'm not a health professional, but here it goes. First, don't panic. Second, avoid getting exposure as much as possible. Remember, the less viral charts you have, the less likely you develop bad symptoms. Third, follow certain patterns as washing hands, because soap breaks the outer layer of the virus. Oh, and masks are quite useless if you don't have any symptoms. This virus is not transmitted through the air, and unless someone coughs in your face, you will be fine. And fourth, don't become a hoarder of toilet paper and pasta. I know wrapping yourself's mommy looks cool, but don't take it away from someone who may need it. So calm down, because the world is not going to end. So what can we learn about this? In Chinese, the word crisis also has opportunity in it. Well, it can also mean engine or airplane. 我的老师会为我感到骄傲. Okay, but let's not get off topic. I want to share with you some reflections of an Italian philosopher right now in quarantine. Music! I believe that the universe has its way of restoring things to balance according to its own laws. Times we're living is full of paradoxes and gives a lot of food for thought. In an era which climate change is reaching worrisome levels due to natural disasters that are taking place, China in the first place and then many other countries are forced into blockade. The economy collapses, but pollution drops considerably. In a society based on productivity and consumptions in which we all run 14 hours a day chasing we don't know very well what it is, without rest and without pause, suddenly we are forced to stop. At home, day after day. To count the hours of the time which we have lost value if it's not measured in some kind of money. In a social phase in which thinking about oneself has become the norm, this virus sends a clear message. The only way to get through is to stand together and resurrect in us the feeling of helping each other. Let's stop looking for people to blame or wonder why this happened and start thinking about what can we learn from all of it. We all have a lot of time to reflect and strive. I believe this is a wonderful opportunity to rethink about things. Just a few days ago it was a joke and now it's a serious global issue. So when everything comes back to normal, let's not forget what happened and what can we do for it to never happen again. We should have a global pandemic system to control things and think about what type of economic system do we want, or how can we grow stronger and learn from this situation to become unshakable. This is a perfect time for this forced reset that gives you massive opportunity to restart a new version of yourself. So, what is it going to be? Oof, and done. Finally, this video is done. My brain was about to explode. Even though they're the simplest drawings, it took a tremendous amount of time to make. This is opportunity to present the Brandless channel. And since this channel is going to be mostly about marketing, branding, and financial stuff, there's a link below where you can download stuff about that. That's everything for today, and I'll see you next week, because I'm making one video every week.